It is Real Women, Real Lifetime. Welcome to this program. It is an absolute joy to be with you. Do you know that these programs are created and produced with a very, very specific purpose to bring you hope, to edify you, to encourage you, and just to always and constantly remind you of how very, very special you are? Well, in this program today, that is exactly what we're going to be talking about. And it just draws me to probably one of my most favorite scriptures that I find in the Word of God. There's many of them, but this is by far one of my most favorites. And it is found in Psalm chapter 139, verses 13. And I want to read it to you directly out of the Word as we start off this program. Psalm 139, verses 13 says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I know that full well." This scripture just immediately tells us that when God created us, when He created you, when He created me, we were created fearfully and wonderfully. And you know, everything that God makes is unique. And that means that you are unique. I am unique. You just have to look at your fingerprint. You have to, if you watch some of these cool TV programs when they get to have a look at a person's voice and a person's hand signature and their eye color, and all of these things about us are so extremely unique. Your very DNA is so unique. There is not one other person on this earth that has the same DNA as you do, the same fingerprint as you do. This is marvelous. We have been fearfully and wonderfully made. Our bodies are extremely unique. And on top of this, our mind. Do you know that your mind is unique? Yes, your mind consists of your will, your emotions, your spirit is part of us as well as that God has created us, but your very mind is just so extremely unique. And on today's program, we are going to be speaking to a woman who understands this very well and who's going to be encouraging you and reminding you you are unique. You have a specific purpose, a specific design that God has created you in and to be, to fulfill a very specific function. And programs like this really excite me because I know that God doesn't make any junk. God doesn't make ordinary. God makes extraordinary. So we have a unique purpose on this earth, and everything about us is unique, including our very mind. So if you woke up this morning and you think there's nothing special about you, if you think that there is nothing unique about you, this program is going to tell you otherwise. So stay tuned to this program. By the end of it, you are going to see how extremely unique and special your very design is. I'll be back with you shortly. So with me today on the set, I have an amazingly beautiful, very special woman by the name of Kotie Potgieter, who's a dear friend of mine, and who's also the CEO of a company called Mind, which stands for, let me get this right, Mastery Individual Neurodesign. Kotie, welcome to the program. This is just such an amazing name, such a mouthful actually. What is it actually all about? What is the purpose of your company?
Thank you, Tracy. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. Yes, it's quite a mouthful, Mastery Individual Neurodesign, but in essence, it means to understand or to master your amazing neurological design. And the purpose of the business is basically we specialize in people development, and we use a brain-based learning and development tool to access and to identify your amazing design.
Wow.
So we still play in the space of neuroscience.
Wow. Okay, so this sounds a little bit almost above my pay grade, so to say. And I class myself as a relatively intelligent person, Kotie. So if we have to break that down, because it sounds beautiful, but if we have to break that down for maybe somebody that's just listened and went, okay, so what does that actually mean? If we had to break that down for someone to really understand what it is that you do with regards to a person's unique design.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say, you know that we live in the information era. We are bombarded with information every second of the day. Exactly. And the only way that you and I will have the competitive advantage in this rapidly changing world is with brain power.
Wow.
Brain power, and to have an accurate understanding of who am I.
Yes.
How do I think? How do I learn? How do I process my information? Even how do I manage my finances? And what is my purpose in life? What's my calling? So to be able to cope with this change, we need to constantly outthink, outlearn, and outcreate our competition.
Kotie, that sounds just like Survivor. If I think about the outwits, outplay, etc., etc. And in a sense, we live in this world which is a rat race. We live in a world where, as you said, there is a lot of competition, a lot of people almost doing the same thing that we're doing. So we have to have that competitive edge. We have to have that edge of understanding who we are, how we've been created.
Absolutely. And Tracy, outthinking, outlearning, and outcreating, those are the basic functions of the brain. So we all do that, but we do it all differently, and that is how uniquely God created us as individuals. Now, we identified 6 different drivers to optimize our performance. And the first one is brain fitness. Now, in a nutshell, what brain fitness means is the ability to utilize both hemispheres simultaneously. So when we are born homolateral. Homo means one, which means we only utilize one hemisphere. Because when you are born, you couldn't just stand up and start walking. You had to start crawling first, which is a cross-lateral movement, utilizing both hemispheres simultaneously. And there's a golden rule that says if you don't use it, you lose it, unfortunately. Then another driver we have a look at is stress. That is a massive challenge for a 21st century person. The effect stress, even neurological stress, is stress we're not even aware of taking place in our bodies and how it affects us and our well-being. Another thing is attitude or mindset. Now there's a biochemical reaction taking place to everything that you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell, the 5 senses. And it can be either good or it can be bad. So are you producing good chemicals or are you producing bad chemicals, which has a direct impact on the body? It can even weaken your immune system if you are constantly negative thinking, pessimism, fear, anger. It has a direct influence on your body. And then our environment. What is it conducive? Is it brain friendly for us? And then we get to the diet. Now, this has nothing to do with panting or anything, but we have to pay attention to what we eat, because what are you feeding your brain? Is it preservatives, flavorants, colorants, substance abuse? Because that kills our brain cells, and then you won't have the competitive advantage. You won't be able to compete in this rat race. Absolutely. And then another major challenge people in the workplace experience is to be able to put people in the right positions. If I can refer to the book of Jim Collins, From Good to Great, he mentions that the trademark of a successful leader is to be able to identify potential and to put potential in the right space. Actually meaning just the ability to identify people's potential and put them in the right positions, which would make life much easier.
And if you don't mind me interrupting there, Kotie, if I just think about that's saying putting a square peg in a round hole.
Absolutely.
And how many times we even ourselves try to squeeze ourselves into a position or into a destiny or into a calling that actually isn't for us to follow into. So we're trying to force ourselves into a certain area, but this isn't part of our design. And what you do is help a person understand what that design is. Kotie, from what I can hear from what you're talking about and from what you've shared with me previously, this is so important for personal growth. And we put so much emphasis on growing our communities and growing our country and growing our churches, but often we neglect ourselves, and often we neglect to look at ourselves and say we need to grow, and that's exactly what you're all about.
Absolutely, especially us as women. I used to ask people or ladies, who are you?
Yes.
And then they will say, I'm a lawyer, or I'm a doctor, or my husband is so-and-so, or my child is in England.
Yes.
But who are you really? Do you know what is your purpose in life? Do you know what is your potential? Do you know what is the value you are bringing to this world? And that is what is so important, to make yourself a priority, invest in yourself, and to know what is the potential. And even if you don't have the skill, as long as you know the potential that's inside of you, because the clues that lies inside of us, that is the good news. God created us so uniquely. As you mentioned earlier, we are carefully woven together in the mother's womb. And just to think about it, we are over 7 billion people on this planet Earth. And there's only one with your unique thumbprint. And one with your amazing neurological design. So you are so unique. Don't try to be a copy. Identify your unique potential, because all of us is blessed with abundance of gift and talents. And once you realize that, you'll step into being godly confident, not self-confident. And that is such a liberating process.
That is beautiful. I absolutely love that. Now, Kotie, I can see how this can work very well as an individual. For me, I want to grow personally. I want to develop myself, understand my neurological design. But how does this apply in a corporate setting to maybe a leadership, maybe a church leadership, a youth leadership, your managers and leaders in your company? How do you appropriate this into that setting?
Yes, Tracy, as mentioned earlier, it's so important to get the right potential into the right space, especially for leaders to be aware of their people's dominance and their preferences. You can get a person that's very expressive. They are going to tell you how they feel, whether you're going to ask them or not. They will tell you. And the people that are not that expressive, we call them more receptive, that focus more on the back part of the brain. Don't force them and don't put them on the place immediately, because they will be totally out of their comfort zone. But you will often find leaving that person and tell them, listen, get back to me, will often have a much larger input in your company. And a greater solution.
That person needs to think about it a bit more.
Think about it. Don't put them on the spot, as mentioned, even with your child at home. And then also what's important, if we have a look at the 4 quadrants where you can fall, is placing people together to work better and efficiently in a team to complement each other, because that is why we are there, and that is to complement each other.
That is excellent. I absolutely love that. I think that there's such key in what you're saying, and I know that many times that I've spoken to people and they're like, yes, I want to discover this, I want to develop this part of me, but I don't know how to. Well, this is the lady that can certainly help you get there. Now, Kotie, some time ago we filmed you speaking at a seminar, and I would love you as our viewers to be able to see Kotie in action, chatting to a group of people at a seminar, and just seeing some little key things that she does with them for them to start understanding the basics of their unique neurological design. We'll be back with you shortly.
Have a look at that black dot. I want to ask you to extend your hands and make a hole as big as a golf ball. And look at that black dot through the hole. Okay, close your one eye. Open it. And close your other eye. And open it. Thank you. Why did I ask you to do this exercise? I want you to experience dominance. You have 2 ears, 2 hands, and 2 eyes. One is dominant, one is following. It means one follows and one leads. Dominance doesn't mean strongest. It simply means one lead and one follow. Okay. When you made that hole, when you look through the one eye, the dot was still there, and when you look through the other eye, the dot disappeared. Am I right? Listen carefully. The eye that you closed and the dot disappeared, that is your dominant eye. Okay. Now it gets a bit more interesting. You have one brain, but you have 2 brain hemispheres. One is leading and one is following. Now your brain works like a movie. You've got your soundtrack part and you've got your visual part. Left hemisphere is your soundtrack part. Right hemisphere is your visual part. Left hemisphere is your language brain. You think best when you can argue, debate, discuss. Some people will say, I don't understand this. Please explain this to me. Left hemisphere, language brain. Then you have your right hemisphere, picture brain, the visual part. You think best when you can conceptualize. You'll often hear people say, I don't understand this, please show me. And then they will say, Oh yes, now I see, I get a picture. Right hemisphere. Okay, so left hemisphere analytical, detail orientated, right hemisphere big picture, holistic. If I may give you an example, I am a left hemisphere person. Okay, if you show me a picture of a forest, I will immediately start counting the trees, and if you give me long enough time, I'll start counting the branches. Very analytical. My husband, on the other side, is a right hemisphere dominant person. So when he looks at the same picture, he will stand like this and say, yeah, I get a feeling of something's a bit off here. Holistic, big picture. So, left hemisphere, logical, detail, structure, task-orientated. And your right hemisphere, creative, holistic, spontaneous, in the moment, people-orientated. Think outside of the box. Innovation, creation, new things. If I may give you another example, my husband will wake up a Saturday morning and he will say, you know what, I feel like, let's get into the car and let's drive somewhere and then we sleep over. Spontaneous, in the moment, feels like the right thing. I immediately recoils because I didn't plan this, out of my comfort zone, but this is the beauty of it, and this is the beauty of relationships. Opposites attract. And it's the same with your brain. They are totally different, but yet they complement each other. Do you know your dominance and what it means to you? That is a picture of a person's fruit salad. Right hemisphere and left hemisphere. And if your child is a right hemisphere child, that's the one, and left hemisphere. Okay, now it gets a bit more interesting. We're going to take the brain, we had a look from left to right. Now we're going to turn it. We have a front part and we have a back part. This is your expressive and this is your receptive part. Now your expressive learner are verbally orientated, language, talkative, outspoken. Your receptive learner on the back part is absorbing, reserved, and think before they act.
Well, that was great fun, and I think everyone that was part of that audience that day, they really enjoyed the exercises that Kotie gave them. So Kotie, I'm sure that there's quite a few other little exercises, brain fitness things that you do with your clients to try and help them understand their unique design. Can you give us maybe one or two examples?
Yes, well, the people enjoy it always tremendously. And another one I used to do is just to kickstart the brain before I start with a conference or a training session, is to utilize both hemispheres. And this you can do every day on a daily basis. Okay. And you just clap, cross over, touch nose and ear, clap, cross over.
Okay. All right. Okay, so if you're watching now, or obviously you're watching now, but as you watch now, while Kotie does this, you try it and then I'm going to try it. But I'm going to let you try first, okay? So Kotie, show our viewers again, and while you're sitting there, try do this. While you're sitting at home or wherever you're watching this program, try see if you can actually do this exercise. And I'm going to just watch and observe for a little bit, but you give it a shot.
Okay, so we're going to clap, cross over, touch nose and ear, and the other side.
Okay, well, that seems simple enough. I think I'm going to give it a shot. Kotie, can I ask you to hold my microphone? Right, so let's go. We clap, cross over, clap, cross over. Am I doing okay? Clap, cross over.
Wonderful.
Clap. Now, so.
No.
Oh. I was getting there. Okay, so what does this little exercise now show us?
Okay, that actually just shows you how to utilize both hemispheres, as I said, to kickstart the brain. You can do it on a daily basis. Okay. But just to get back to the clip we showed our viewers, that is basically to show them what dominance means. Because we have 5 senses. Yes. And our senses are the doors to our brain.
Right.
So we've got 2 eyes, 2 ears, and two hands.
Right.
One is dominant, so it means one is leading and one is following passively. Dominance actually don't mean strongest. It only means one is leading, one is following. And then with our dominance, which is quite interesting, your dominance senses, the pattern, don't have to be on the same side.
Okay.
That is actually a myth.
Right.
So your dominance pattern is genetically determined. That is your blueprint. That is how our Creator created you.
Sure.
So you might have the dominance pattern of a right eye, which you got from your father, and a right ear from your mother. But you might have a left hand from your grandmother,
Okay.
and the left brain hemisphere, which is dominant, from your grandfather.
Wow.
So and I think it's just vital for parents and for managers to be aware of these preferences as well, because when senses are on the same side than your dominant hemisphere, you might experience what we call a neurological hindrance.
Okay.
And in layman's terms, it just means that you have a block.
Okay.
And this can be even fatal in some occupations, and people have to be aware of this.
Sure.
Let me give you an example, Tracy. If you have a block eye dominance and you study the whole day and you close that book, you can't recall a word, something you read.
Yes, yes.
And the same when you sit in a classroom or in a boardroom and you're tired or fatigue sets in, you see the person's mouth doing this, but you can't recall a word anymore that person said. Or your child is studying so hard for an exam, get into the classroom, and you can't put what's in here onto a piece of paper. And that's why I said it's so important to know what is your dominance.
Okay. And now, Kotie, what you can do is that if there are those blocks, you are able to then help the viewers, help us to understand or to how to overcome that block. You've got programs and workshops, etc., that you actually have for people to do this.
Absolutely. The point of departure is to know yourself, and to know this is my problem or this is my block, and then you have to start managing it. And you have to know what is the drivers that has an influence on this. So this is not going to go away. This is your genetically pattern, but you'll have to know how to manage it.
Overcome it. Well, that's absolutely brilliant. I immediately think of parents with those teenagers in the higher grades or even the younger grades. I mean, I can understand how liberating this can be for you if you think to yourself, your child studies and studies and studies and can never actually get breakthrough, or even in your corporate company. We're going to break very quickly. I want to just read or show you one or two testimonies of clients that have been with Kotie and the dramatic results that they've had and the success that they've had by attending one of her seminars. Be back with you shortly.
Working as a young female in a highly competitive corporate environment, mine gave me the exact advantage I needed in my career. By understanding and identifying my neurological strengths and preferences, I am able to make informed decisions and develop my true potential. It has enabled me to understand my team, manage them more effectively, and use a unique communication style.
Mind, with a passionate Kotie Potgieter on board, took me on an exciting journey of identifying my neurological strengths and preferences. Who you really are and to become the best you can be was a wonderful and thoughtful journey to know all people are okay, but in different ways. To be successful in life and learning, I need to know how I prefer to learn, think, create, and becoming the best I can be.
Well, Kotie, it's very encouraging to see already the significant change that your company Mind is making. Now, I know that you've been watching this and you're like, oh my goodness, Lord, we need Kotie to come to us, to come help us, your company, your corporate setting, your church leadership even maybe your what you call them, the leaders in your school, the head boy, the head girl, etc., whatever it might be. Kotie has got an amazing gift and a brilliant understanding in helping you to unlock that potential. Kotie, how can our viewers get hold of you?
Tracy, yes, they can visit my website. It is mindmastery.co.za, and our viewers are welcome to send me an email. It's Kotie@mindmastery.co.za.
Okay, and on your website you have all the information for seminars, because Kotie does a lot of seminars all over the country. So you've got those dates there?
Yes. On the website, all the dates are listed, and for all the provinces as well. We do Cape Town, Durban, PE, East London, and Bloemfontein, and then, of course, Johannesburg. And if I can just mention to the viewers maybe that in May, we have a ladies' women conference, especially for our ladies, and those dates will also be on the website.
Oh, well, there we go. You must give me those dates. Is that going to be in Joburg, in Gauteng?
And Cape Town and Durban.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, there we go. You've heard from Kotie. And if you miss her details, or if you happen not to be able to find her, get hold of us on our Facebook page on RWRL TV, and I will steer you straight to Kotie, because this is something that I know will be an absolute blessing. As we said in the beginning of the program, Kotie, we are fearfully and wonderfully made by an amazing creator. And it is our responsibility to understand that design that God has put in us. Kotie, thank you for joining us. It's been a blessing, and much blessing for you and for your company, Mind.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
I will see you next week. Next week's going to be an awesome program. You do not want to miss it. Stay tuned to go visit our Facebook page all the time, because we're keeping you updated with regular information, specifically with regards to our next Heartbeat event, which is coming up this year. Next week's program is going to give you all that information. So next week, same time, same place. God bless. I'll see you then.